And this week's guest on the Financial Planner Live podcast is Michelle Wilson-Stimson from eParaplanner Connect. And she goes into great detail about how she got into the financial planning profession, starting out as a door knocker for an American financial advice business. She takes us on a career journey, which sees her moving into paraplanning, administrative back office functions, and eventually running her own business. Michelle does a fantastic job today on this episode of breaking down what she thinks is the correct structure for a career framework in paraplanning. And rest assured, there are more positions than you actually think. It's a real eye-opener. And she also talks about how well-being is intertwined into her career framework to ensure that those that go on that career journey aren't put off by the fact that they haven't passed any qualifications, or their strength actually lies more in research and building relationships. She covers absolutely everything. It's a fantastic episode. She shares incredibly deeply. You're going to really enjoy this one. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today on the Financial Planner Life podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's all right, no problem at all. Thank you for joining me. You run eParaplan Connect. That's correct, isn't it?
I do indeed.
And that's an outsourced paraplanning company.
It is, yeah.
You're the CEO and you've been running that for quite some time. And we'll get into that a little bit later on down in the podcast. But you have had an extensive career within the financial planning profession.
Yeah, sure. I've had quite a long and varied career, to say the least.
Excellent. So you've got lots of experience.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. So we've seen the good, we've seen the bad, and we've seen the ugly. We thought that we could make it better and improve it by setting up our own businesses. And then you go through a bit of a baptism of fire of learning in that area as well.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So we see it from different perspectives. And that's great. What I also love about bringing people like you on, Michelle, is that where the role of administrators, power planners, operations, what I would call the back office supportive functions within financial planning is now growing, it was always traditionally looked at as being like an introvert's role. Oh, I don't want to be client facing, so I want to go into a back office type function, like I'm a support position. And, that I think needs to change. And that sitting in those positions are some incredibly entrepreneurial individuals, incredibly intelligent individuals, and those that can add some serious value. I always believe that in those positions as well are some highly qualified people that with the right training and with the right development could also bridge the gap into financial advice and actually reduce the advice gap if firms had a personal development plan in place to help the people that wanted to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
These are the types of things.
The sort of the career progression, if you like, as for a paraplanner, is people do start off with becoming an administrator, like you say, but I'm not an introvert, although I was an advisor to start with, and we'll come on to that.
Yeah.
So I'm not introverted. I know many people in my business that are not introverted, and they love working in the administration and the paraplanning field. And it used to be a stepping stone to becoming an advisor, but it's not that anymore. It's got its own profession. It's got its own journey of recruitment and training, and you can earn some really good money as a top end paraplanner now as well. And so, some paraplanners I know earn more than advisors. So I think it was always a money thing. I want to be an advisor because I'm going to earn a lot of money. But actually now those paraplanners, those chartered paraplanners, they're earning good money too. And it's all about actually understanding what it is you like to do. Not many people like sitting down in front of people, and just because you might not be introverted, but not really want to be in that kind of environment that you are talking to people and having to give advice and everything, because you might like to get into the nitty gritty of writing up a report, etc. So it all goes down to the person. But yeah, absolutely, not everyone is introverted. No. Most are, but not everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've kind of got those. And I get that, because let's look at the advisor position, which you have actually done in the past, haven't you? You've been an advisor before.
I have, yes.
We kind of associate, to be an advisor, you must be an extrovert because an extrovert only, for example, right? But the pressures that come with financial advice, it's not so much the fact that you are happy to sit down and talk to people, that you're a good communicator, you can build rapport really well, build relationships really, really, really well, right? It's that part where how you cope with the pressure of not seeing clients or not having clients in front of you, where there has to be a skill set where you have to go out and find business, for example, because as we know, when you're in any kind of, I'm going to call a financial advisor a sales role. Okay. There's an outbound business development sales aspect, whether it's selling your services or getting somebody to sit down in front of you to see the value in the products or the services that you offer. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think when we're in that financial advice position, or when people are in that financial advice position, that there is a pressure external to just being an extrovert, right? You don't just because you're an extrovert doesn't mean you're going to develop business, right? And it's the same in respect to paraplanners. You can be an extrovert and sit in a paraplanning and supportive role because there is a huge amount of element of development within that position that requires you to be somebody that can stand up confidently and make change happen and not sit there and introvertly think about it. Is my thinking. So the two are interchangeable, and I think it's a recognition of the skill set that you have and how transferable those skills are position to position. And I love the fact that you said there, that there is a new development, there is a new area to develop into. There are high earners in there. I've spoken to paraplanners that are on basics of around 60 to 70K when they're chartered and they're experienced. When I say experienced, let's say 5 years or something like that. But they're also aligned to the business and the performance of the business, and they're securing bonuses. I did a survey actually at Christmas, and I asked who's on the naughty or nice list when it comes to bonuses within firms, within the financial planning profession. And you can imagine all these companies were saying we're on the good list because we give bonuses to our support staff. And I think it was something like 65% were giving bonuses aligned to back office performance. First off, let me just delve into that. What do you think about that? Do you think firms should be adding like a bonus, not commission, but a bonus to the support staff, whether it be operations, administration, paraplanner? Do you think that's a really good incentive to get people to come and work?
Yeah,
and to work
it
harder?
really is, because at the end of the day, they're the people that are your glue of the business. They're the people that are getting all of that paperwork done. They're getting the implementation sorted out. They're writing the plans. They're quite often in the client meetings, and dealing with clients. The advisor does their bit, but then it's everything else behind it. And it's absolutely the admin team and the paraplanners that are doing that. So yeah, I really think that's a great idea, and everyone should have a form of bonus structure in their pay, because particularly in an advisory firm, it's a little bit different for outsourced paraplanners because we don't have that kind of income that advisors have. It's not based on what we'll call sales, because let's face it, it kind of is, isn't it? So it's not based so much on that. But in an advisor's office, I think it's a great incentive to say, if we bring in this amount of money, we're going to give a bonus to X, Y, Z. The administrators will get this, the paraplanners will get that, and then it also makes those admin and paraplanners become more efficient and want to drive the business forward, not just do the work.
Yeah.
So then they've got that little bit of entrepreneurial spirit in them and a bit more drive to say, right, I'm going to earn a bonus this year. I'm going to do this sort of thing. I want to have a great Christmas. I want a big bonus. So I'm going to smash it. And then on top of that, those paraplanners will drive those advisors, because the advisors won't be able to sit back, because the paraplanners are going, come on, you've got new business to write here, or you've got this meeting and I've booked you in for that meeting, and then they're kind of got somebody else that's pushing them out the door to get in front of people as well. So I think it's absolutely brilliant.
No, I love that. I love that explanation. And I love the examples that you gave also about how a paraplanner who is aligned to the performance of the business, one of the things there it does as a business owner, you want everybody aligned to the growth of your business, right? You want as a business owner to turn over a profit, and you want everybody chasing the same goal. And that's a great example of how you can do that within a financial planning profession for the back office function staff. And I really like that. I also like the way that the examples you gave there around how the paraplanner can G up the advisor to get into those meetings and see those people and get behind it. Do Do you think that happens in financial planning firms? Do you think sometimes the paraplanning operational back office do actually drive, I don't know, productivity perhaps?
I
Or do you
think
think it's
in
always driven
some
by
it
the
will.
advisor?
There's going to be some where people don't have that drive in them anyways, and they just want to get the work done. So there's going to be a few where it doesn't happen. But I think if you've got a self-starting, autonomous working, driven power planner, they're gonna want to do that anyway because they'll have that work coming in for themselves because paraplanners don't want to sit twiddling their thumbs anyway, do they?
No.
Whilst it might be great to get paid a lot of money and sit and do nothing all day, people like to feel that purpose. They don't like having something come to them when they haven't kind of they haven't done something to be rewarded for that. Okay, there are some people that don't care, but
Yeah.
the majority of people. So having those people doing that, I think they are out there.
Yeah.
Whether they're doing it actively or might be a little bit worried about doing it actively, I don't know. I'm not sure. I have to do a bit more digging.
Well, this is the idea of it. I think we are, digging around this and exploring how people feel within specific roles is something that I do a lot of anyway. I talk to a lot of people, and you can imagine through my business in recruitment, you hear the woes, you hear what people don't like, you hear what people want to change. And we often push back and sort of challenge them on whether or not that's a you problem or if that's a business problem. But one of the biggest problems that I feel that paraplanners and administrators have is one of feeling that they're not looked at as being a vital part of the business, as important to the production of business as, say, somebody who's generating new business opportunities, which is equally important, right? They feel a bit disconnected from that and feel undervalued, underappreciated, and overworked. And, that doesn't help, does it, with a paraplanner shortage?
No, it doesn't.
So you've got all these firms that are, we want a paraplanner, we want an administrator, we want this, that, and the other. But there isn't a great deal of them out there. And the ones that are good and the ones that are employed, you're starting to now see firms recognizing the value of them because they're rare as rocking horse shit to find. So, so they're starting to wrap their arms a little bit more around them. Therefore, starting to see some change in there. Okay, cool, great. You started off in the financial planning profession then, working in financial advice, didn't you?
I did, yes, for my sins. So a little bit about me. So my background, when I was young, I went to college and I did visual communication and photography. So I'm very creative. I've got a very creative streak in me. I'm a professional photographer. Cool. Anyway, I've been doing that for years and years, alongside being an advisor and paraplanner, what have you. So I did that to start with, and then finished that and thought, I think I want to work in business and finance. So I did another college course in business and finance. And from there, went to university, did business management, human resource management. So I started to go down the business route more than the creative side. And my first job was with a company called Edward Jones, who you may or may not have heard of.
Yeah.
Big American company. They set up in the UK and recruited. I was one of the second recruits, I think, second tranches of recruits. And that was very much, this is your FPC 1, what it was in the day. Get that. You've got 3 weeks to study it and pass it. If you don't pass it, you're going to get fired.
Right.
And when you got to that point, this is FPC 2. And if you study, you've got 3 weeks to pass that. And they did a bit of classroom stuff as well. So it wasn't just go home and read the book. And if you don't pass that, you're going to get fired. And it went on like that. So we did the SFA exam as well, which is Securities and Futures, because I was also a stockbroker there. Yep. So they were a little bit different. And they did a full independent financial advisory range, in the market sort of thing, but they also did share dealing. So we were coming up with stock portfolios as well as everything else that goes alongside it. So it's a little bit different. So that's where I started. But that was a shock to the system, let's say, because it was very cold cally. I had no clients. It was a new business, and come over from America. There was nothing else here. No one had heard of Edward Jones. And their sales training was to take us to America for 2 weeks and make us knock on people's doors and sell stocks and shares to these Americans. So you've got some English person knocking on their door saying, Vodafone shares are great today. It was eye-opening. So we then come back and did a lot of training and door knocking in England as well, in our local areas. And to be fair, I did quite well at that.
Yeah.
I was one of the highest earners to start off with, as well. And again, it comes back to drive there, because you get a little salary for a few months to get you through your exams and to get you started, but then they stop your salary completely. So I've got to build up a client bank before X date, otherwise I'm not going to have any money. So I did that for a couple of years. Where did I go then? I then went to work for a firm in Cardiff as an investment manager.
Right.
And again, that was a big group of IFAs, and they needed someone to do the share dealing part. So of course that was my background at the time. So I did that. And then I moved on to working for Abbey National, as it was, which is now Santander, obviously, as a IFA there. And then from there, I moved on to Norwich and Peterborough. And the reason I've moved is because I've moved houses.
Right.
Now, something you'll learn about me is that I like to move a lot.
Right. Okay.
My husband, bless him, I've made him move house 10 times, literally in the last 8 years.
Oh, wow.
And everyone jokes about it. But yeah, so I did like to move a lot. So I've moved from sort of Hereford to Gloucester to Worcester to Cardiff. And then we've settled in Peterborough, and I now live in Stamford. So we moved over to Peterborough, and that's when I started to work for the Norwich and Peterborough as a IFA there. That was my journey as an advisor. So there are all the places I worked. That happened over the course of about 8-9 years. And it was there that I then had my last daughter, who's now nearly 18. And I decided I don't want to be an advisor anymore. I want to focus on the other part of it, the developing, the reporting, the compliance, the administration. And I'm going to do that for a lot of firms. And the reason I did that is because when I worked for Edward Jones at the very beginning, it was just me. And I was trying to find clients, I was trying to write business, and I just didn't have time then to do all of my own administration and my own paraplanning, and I was doing it. And I used to think, God, if only there was a company that could just like take all this off me and just let me sit in front of clients and see my clients, that would be great. So that's what I decided to create. And there are paraplanner firms out there, and not so much nowadays, but back when I was starting up my business, they were just paraplanning firms. So they just did report writing. But I wanted it to be different. I wanted eParaplan to be different. And I wanted to say, no, you don't need staff. We'll do everything. And you can pool that resource. Because at the time, I needed someone. I needed skilled people, qualified people, but I couldn't afford them because I was still building my own business myself. So I just needed something I could pick up and put down and pick up and put down and or develop on, start off with a part-time person and grow them into a full-time person. But I just thought that was this like a pool of investments, like a pool of people, or a pool of something that lots of people could use and lots of advisors could use, and that would work. So yeah, so
Michelle,
that's what started my career in paraplanning.
That's great, and that's a really great comprehensive overview. And there are a couple of things within there I just want to delve into. One is that you went to university. You weren't actually a very creative person, quite inquisitive, I assume. You're always interested in creativity. For me, like regardless of what environment that you're in, you're always going to find a way to build something, right? Whether that's physically with your hands, whether that's taking a photo and editing it, or whether it's building a team, right? Or a solution to a problem. So creativity was always at the core of who you are intrinsically and your purpose as a person. You transferred that across into business and finance. I find that confusing at that point, but at the same time, I don't, because I was like that. I fell into financial services. But interestingly, you and I share something in common as well, and something in common with a lot of people that I know that run their own businesses. And that's you've knocked on somebody's door to sell your services. And there are numerous people, lots and lots of people that I know that have done that. I did that for 2 years. I built a team, self-employed, knocking on people's doors, selling charities and telecoms in the rain.
God, that's nearly as hard as financial advice.
It was horrific. It was all commission based, and it was like an American company. So you come back and you'd have to ring the bell if you'd done a deal, or you ding the gong if you got 10. And
Yeah.
it was like a pyramid selling type model. I was young. I left school. I didn't go on for further education. So I wasn't a naturally academic individual. I struggled with that. So the only thing I could do really was push into something where I felt like I could control. And I knew that I was a good communicator, and I knew that I was competitive, and I knew that I wanted to succeed. So to me, it was like I had to do it. I had to cut my teeth on it. But one thing I've learned, like I said, is that people who've done that job, they either realize 100% they don't have the characteristics, the drive, the will to do something like that. And then the ones who push through that pain take something away from it, and they've gone on to run their own businesses. Lots of my friends have. Lots of them have also gone to become financial advisors. So I find that really, really interesting. Did the Americans respond well to you as an English woman?
Yes, absolutely did. Yeah,
Yeah.
they were really good actually. The response it was in Ohio that we went to. The response to the people that were there was far better than the response we used to have back in the UK.
So why do you
I'd
think?
have doors slammed in my face before I'd even said anything sometimes.
And why do you think that is?
I don't think the British people are very open to that sales type person knocking on their door. They feel their space is being invaded. Their pride, why are you knocking on my door? How dare you? Whereas the American ethos is, wow, you've taken the time to knock on my door and tell me this. That they just think a little bit differently. And we'd get invited in for cookies and drinks, and in England they just don't do that. It's
No.
like, why are you here? You're invading my space. Get off my doorstep. I'm not interested in anything you've got to sell to me, even if I need it.
Yeah. So there was something
different.
you said, and you were like, when you said you started out as a financial advisor, you kind of sighed a little bit and gave the impression that, oh, for my sins type thing, I started out as a financial advisor. Elaborate on that. Why is that?
Oh, that's a good question. So you've picked up on my subconscious there, haven't you? I don't know. I suppose because when I now run an outsourced paraplanning business, and I see so many different advisors doing so many different things, and they all think they're doing it the right way, and they all think they're doing it the best way. And you'll never find another advisor that does it better than me attitude. So I suppose maybe it's me thinking, was I like that back then? I don't know. I don't think I was, but maybe I was. So it's a little bit like, I know what advisors are like. I know how people perceive them in the administration and paraplanning type businesses. So, and this is not all advisors. So please don't hate me, advisors out
No,
there.
that's okay.
Yeah, I think they're a certain type of person. They're quite egotistical at times, but that's good because they need to be that sort of person to do well in their businesses. And maybe that's why I sighed.
Yeah. Well, I think sometimes when I could say the same for 15 years of running a recruitment business into the recruitment space, dealing with business owners, and often dealing with business owners that are financial advisors, can often be quite trying and quite taxing. And the expectation upon their shoulders of what others do for them is almost like a sense of grandiose self-importance that everything else doesn't matter. And they don't tend to listen to feedback incredibly well. So like, for example, during like a recruitment process, they don't want to be coached around the candidate you're putting them in front of, because they feel that I know. And it's like, well, you don't know, because we know the market and we know how best to position yourself to give the right impactful interview to take that person on up against what we understand that person actually wants, but also what the market is out there looking like. So this is how really you should position it, because you're going to like this person. So you need to be able to position an offer that matches, say, perhaps their intrinsic values, right? And I found that a lot, where I found that frustrating a lot with advisors.
Yeah.
And not all of them. There were a lot of forward-thinking companies. The bigger the firm got, the less responsibility was on the shoulders of the business owner. And the more I started to understand that the business owners are wearing multiple hats, more often than not, someone who's starting out in financial planning are sold the dream. Go and set, and like as you were, self-employed, go and set up your own business and you're going to make a shitload of money. Before you realize, what you don't realize is that, well, I've got to wear the hat of an administrator. I've got to wear the hat of a paraplanner. I've also got to wear the hat of an operations manager. I've got to be a marketeer. I've got to be a social media manager now. I've got to create some video, create some content. I've also got to go out and network. And before you know it, it's very overwhelming. And I think the ego element of it is almost a barrier. It's like a kind of defensive mechanism. And as soon as I started talking to them about the problems that they were incurring and the stress that was having on them, the pride went down. And when I say this, when I say them, and do you know what the image that I have in my head straight away is of a man, more so. When I speak to women, it's a very different conversation. It's very open. It's very reflective, and it's very open to improvement. But
Yeah, I think women are more susceptible to that. That might be putting everyone in one basket, but I think because most women are a little bit more empathic about themselves and other people, that I think they can come across as less, not less driven, but less. They don't have that ego so much as maybe a male advisor.
yeah, and I think I've seen that, but that's throughout. And and the last thing I want to do is throw anybody into any boxes, right? I'm not I'm not some sort of bloody psychologist or something like that. It's merely
Not me.
it's merely an observation of what I've seen and my relationships I've had with people throughout the years. Though one thing I definitely understand is the deeper you understand them and their pain points, the easier it becomes to add value to them. And if you solve a problem for them, it's your best friend. If you can recognize in them the pain point and you solve that pain point, you're let into this in a little bit further into that world. And one of the big pain points for firms is being able to get out and see clients, but also having enough time to be able to do all the work that is left behind when you're out there winning new business, and things like your suitability reports and the research involved, especially for an IFA, Gabrielle reports, all the things that need to be done to be able to say, tick box, I've delivered the right advice. And the pressure obviously upon that individual becomes far greater, doesn't it? Because if they give the wrong advice, if they recommend the wrong thing, if they don't do the correct research, they're liable, aren't they, for that
That's right.
advice
Yeah.
that's actually given. And that's another reason why, as FCA rules and regulations and change and consistently change and become stricter and stricter and stricter, there is a growing need for good operations, compliance, paraplanners and administrators.
Yeah.
Before you ended up deciding that you were going to set your own business up, you obviously had that entrepreneurial streak. We learned that really from your very early days, career, college, university, all that kind of path. Before you set that up, though, you were working in a capacity as an IFA, right? Was that employed or was that self-employed?
It was self-employed at the beginning. Well, actually, that's a good question. I think it was an employed role, but it dropped to self-employed after the salary part dropped off. And I think we got paid a salary for 12 months to
Okay.
set our businesses up. And then after that, all the other roles were very much employed.
So you were in an advice position, and you were in an advice position for quite some time. And I suspect you probably thought, this is going to be my path in life. This is where I'm going to go, and this is what I'm going to do. And then you made the decision that it wasn't. I wonder how many people are sitting in financial advice positions right now because they've been sold, say, the dream of an academy from some of your major ones like your SJPs or whatever, where they've been a bit like Edward Jones, right? You've been fast tracked through an academy. You've gone into the role of financial advisor and are thinking like, I'm going to grit my teeth and I'm going to go through this. And I wonder how many people are sitting there going like, I just don't enjoy the relationship development side or the going out and winning the business side as much as I enjoy the research or the proposal presentation side, the presenting the analytics and all of that kind of stuff, using the tools, creating the content, that kind of stuff. I wonder how many are sitting in there. Was that what happened to you? Did you just reflect upon it all of a sudden and thought, what was the, because if you, I'd love to hear what you went through, because somebody else is 100% sitting in a role thinking, I don't want to do this, I want to be a paraplanner, but I don't like the idea of dropping down to become a paraplanner when actually it's not a drop down, it's just a sidestep into something that suits you.
Yeah, it really isn't a drop down. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from doing that, exactly that. I think they got it in their mind, and they think by things they see that actually, if I become a paraplanner from being an advisor, that it's I'm backing down on myself. I'm not driving myself. I'm letting myself down. But actually, it's completely not true, because there's so many different roles and different types of paraplanner. There's paraplanners that focus on financial abuse only. You know, those people are skilled in that one area. That you know, you to be to, if you're going to become a paraplanner, it's a really good idea to niche in something, because there's quite a few paraplanners now. And whilst not everyone is a great paraplanner that's in the market at the moment, if you've got that niche, then people are going to come to you from everywhere and ask you for support, and you know, it's particularly technical support on that area. But I think, as we, you know, for me, when I was an advisor, I was always going to people's houses. So particularly when I was on the self-employed thing, I would go to people's houses at whatever time they wanted to see me. I would make myself available because I was building my own business and I needed the income and the revenue. So I would go to their houses at night, at weekends, and I didn't really like the idea of, I had two children at home anyway already, a little bit older than my youngest. And I didn't want my youngest daughter, because obviously I had her in 2005. I didn't want her to suffer from me not being at home. So I wanted to be at home for her when she came home from school or nursery. I wanted to be there at the beginning of her life and make sure that she had a good start. And so I decided that I didn't want to go out to people's houses anymore, and I didn't want to do that. And I suppose I could have changed the role and stayed as an advisor, but said, no, I'm only going to do hours between 9 and 5 or 9 and 3. But at the time, that wasn't really available to me. So I just said, I wanted this pool of people to help me in my business. That's the bit I kind of enjoy anyway, because whilst I'm not shy and I can be confident in front of people, the salesy type part of it, and again, I could do it. I could do it standing on my head, but I just didn't really enjoy it. I preferred, like you say, to sit and have a plan and to work through something and to write my report up. And I loved compliance. And I just thought, I just want to change. I want to be at home. I want to be able to be working at my computer. And if my daughter needs me, I can just stop and see to her. So that was why I wanted that difference. And again, if you're in a meeting, you can't just stop and say, hold on a minute, just got to see my 2-year-old who's beating up the cat, sort of thing. You know, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I've got a daughter that beats up my cat, so I definitely understand that. I can relate to that. With there was something there that you said, and I think, you know, it's fine to talk about this as well. I think the role of a paraplanner, the reason why there are so many women within paraplanner roles, right, is because it does lend itself to more sociable hours that can be controlled. And, you know, we're in families now where there is nobody staying at home to look after the children unless you're financially comfortable to do that. Most people usually strive towards getting some house or whatever that is a need for both parties to be earning good money and bringing money in or paying the bills, etc. It's never usually upon one person's shoulders unless you're a very lucky household, right? You're both, you know, you're both out there doing it. So I do think that the role of paraplanner and administrator for women that want to balance work, life, family commitments is also a really good option, not just for women, but also for men as well. You know, I run a business and I have that flexibility. I can pick my daughter up, take her to school. You know, I can be there for her. And that's a real value add to me. And I think with paraplanning within a firm that also offers flexible working, what a great role for that period of your life. What it also offers is an amazing chance to learn and deepen your knowledge. And where people sometimes feel like I don't want to waste my time in an administration or paraplanning position, I want to go straight to becoming an advisor. I'm very much now in the mindset of challenging that and saying it's not a waste of time whatsoever. And as much as I do promote through paid advertisements for St. James's Place and M&G, etc., a route like that is really, really good, right? It's really good for the right person. But there has to be choice in somebody's career development. And I'm actually bringing an academy out soon. I'm going to announce it soon. And the focus of it is going to be around well-being and ensuring that at the very, very beginning of your career journey, that you have an honest appraisal of exactly what a career looks like within financial planning and what each stage looks like, to not create this idea of get rich quick through becoming an advisor, because nobody gets rich quick becoming an advisor. It's as simple as that, right?
Yeah.
It would suit maybe somebody that route of speedily going towards advice if you are at a position in life where financially you can afford it and that you have a really strong network perhaps to leverage off of, or you're partnering with somebody that could help you with client leads, etc. And it suits some people that way. And I want to make sure that people see administration paraplanning as a really great route to go down to learn, to give you flexibility, to educate you, and to also determine whether or not that path is actually the right path for you. And that if the worst, you know what the worst thing is about going down that route, even if you really do want to become an advisor, right, is that you gain such super duper knowledge, right, don't you? Your ability to research and articulate that research that you found when you step across into an advice role, especially if you're with a firm that allows you as a paraplanner to make available to you client meetings. So as a paraplanner, being able to sit next to an advisor, listen to the advisor do his relationship building stuff and all of that kind of stuff, but for you to come in and present the research to that individual, I think adds real value. Not to mention that the paraplanner then fully understands the role of a paraplanner, what they do. So when they do transition and step across into that advice role, if that's a choice that they want to make, then they'll know directly how to build a relationship with a paraplanner to deliver the best service for the client at the end of it. So, one of the struggles I see in the paraplanning role, though, and have done, and it's changing, but not every firm is doing it, because I think to do with the fact that there's a lot of small to medium enterprises within the financial planning space, and they just don't have the education or the time and energy to create things like career frameworks. I know that a career framework is a huge motivator to your staff. What I see within financial planning is all these financial planning companies saying, I want a paraplanner. And they're just chucking in anything they want into that job advert or anything that they want within that requirement. And I don't know about you, but I think the role of a paraplanner should be broken down into different role responsibilities. To do that means there's a realistic expectation upon the shoulders of the new person or the experienced person coming in, and they can clearly define the things that they want to do and what they don't want to do, or the things they're not experienced to do, or the things that they want to learn, for example. So it gives them a progressive mindset and keeps them in the company happy. And also each individual role can also be can have a salary banding associated to it that's relevant to the level of experience. So you're keeping them motivated and keen to progress through education and learning, but also through monetary gain as well, right? So I think I'm always keen to hear somebody who's experienced in going through that process and also who's built a paraplanning outsource company. What do you think firms, because listen, let's not beat around the bush. You want all those firms to not hire paraplanners. You want them to use your services.
Absolutely, yes.
And we're going to, and I want them to do that as well. I'm behind you 110% because I get it. It's your business, and we'll get into that another time. We can definitely delve into that. No problem at all. And I know your business, and it's outstanding. So if any, planners are listening to it, they should be contacting you and using your services. But let's help a few people first, Let's give a bit of an insight in what they can do to help themselves, right? What do you think can be done around the structure of building out like an employee profile within the financial planning profession? What is the route to becoming, say, top level chartered paraplanner, the top level paraplanner? What do you think it looks like?
Well, I'll tell you what we do at eParaplan. We have a very clear, defined process, and we based it around a standard type of advisor process, sales process. So we look at the very beginning. What do we need to do at the very beginning? Obviously, sending off LOAs and all of those bits and pieces, all the way through to booking appointments, then getting the pack ready for a meeting, and it goes through all the way through from beginning to the very end, which is where the business gets signed up, and obviously there's a paraplanner bit in between. So what we did, we decided that we would come up with our roles. So we've got administrator, and we've got a technical administrator, and then it goes to, we've also got client servicing administrator, and then you have a technical researcher and a client servicing researcher, client servicing paraplanner, technical paraplanner, sorry, I did say researcher, technical paraplanner, and then that goes up to specify type of, what am I trying to say? like a route. So you might say, okay, I want to be an investment only, or I want a niche with financial abuse, or on those kind of things. And then we then create different plans from that. But at the very beginning, we created this journey and we created a development plan that had everything in. So you could sit down with one of your administrators and tick off what they are skilled and can do competently and score it on 1 to 5, bearing in mind how they kind of score. And then along with that, at each point, so that it might get to, let's say, the admin part. So that would be the basic admin, the LOA kind of stuff, the data harvesting and all that, and a few more bits and pieces. And once we've ticked them off, we would ask them if they wanted to do an exam to back up that knowledge. FA1, FA2 normally, because it's the pensions administrating exam. And that's what, then they'll sit an exam. And if they pass it, great. If they don't, whilst I am all for people having exams, and I think they do confirm people's knowledge, some people just don't know, or not don't know, they don't perform well in an exam environment. They lose their mind, they lose their ability to remember anything because they're just stressed out too much. So that's why we have this development plan that has everything listed that you can tick off. So even if they don't pass their exam, they can still continue to progress to the next level. So this big development plan we've done has levels in. So as you work your way through, you're ticking off what you can do, and that will eventually bring you all the way through to what we call a technical analyst, actually, a technical analyst. And that includes everything. So for now, you are completely, you know everything about basic. When I say basic, I mean not talking about going into huge inheritance tax planning and that sort of stuff. So you know how to basically write a report, pension transfer, that sort of stuff, and get it out. And if you've done our development plan, you've probably got exams along the way as well at each point. So if you've got RO1 and RO2, we change the job title to technical researcher. So now you understand all of these things that are in your plan, but you've also got your exam to state that. But again, we will still put someone to a technical researcher, even if they don't pass the exam, because we have our own internal testing as well. And then from there, we go up to the technical, other technical parts. So the paraplanner role, the technical analyst. So when you get to technical analyst, that means you've either completed your development plan or you've got RO1 to RO6. So and again, they run alongside each other, but we don't like to tell people, if you can't get that exam, don't worry about it. We don't want to stop people's progression just because of a piece of paper when they could be bloody good paraplanners. So, and I'm all for that. And then once you get to that point, it's really down to the person to really think about what their career looks like. Do you want to do you want to train people? Do you want to manage people? If you hate managing people, do you want to train people? Maybe, maybe not. But do you have a specialism? Are you really interested in investments? So let's sit down with you now and create a new plan. Let's see what you can do, extra exams, for example, or extra CPD, or going and sitting with X advisor or this person in the business and learning a bit more about that. So then we start to move up and put people into niches and into categories, if you like. And some people just say, no, I just want to keep going. I want to choose a couple of different exams. I want to get chartered, not really bothered what they are. I might do this one, I might do that one. But other people say, no, I really want to have an investment focus, or I really want to have a vulnerability and financial abuse specialism, because I think that's going to be needed more. And that's how we develop. And alongside all of that on the way, pay rises happen. So if you get to this point, you get a pay rise. If you pass that exam, you get a pay. It's the same thing. You either pass the exam or you prove that you can do this, and we'll give you a pay rise. And we have got banding for all of the levels in our business as well. So we know where we can put people based on what level they've got to or what exam they've passed. So that's how we do it.
That's amazing.
It works quite well for us. It gives people a sense of purpose. It gives them a sense of drive. And they know that whilst having an exam and passing that exam is good and does prove that they've got that knowledge, that actually we're not going to penalise them if they just don't like doing exams, which lots of people don't.
First off, just want to congratulate you on articulating an incredibly progressive career development plan within the administration to power planning space. The way you broke that down and the way you look at every intricate detail and align things like salaries and incentives, plus taking into consideration somebody's levels of strength, whether it's academic or research or their passion for the job, etc. You don't just look at one thing and that's it. It doesn't sound like it's a black and white development plan for you, but also it lends your, as a business, it lends itself to be able to fill gaps. So for example, if you lost somebody who was one of the technical, you could go out and hire somebody at that level, or you could promote from within if somebody's already on that sort of pathway and they're ready to step into that type of role. And I think you can see now why financial planning firms and you struggle to find the right person for their business that fits the needs that they require. Okay, because you've got a whole team that support financial planning firms. A financial planning firm of a specific size might only hire one administrator and call them a paraplanner, just for the job title perspective or whatever, right? Without the relevant experience for the level of work that's required. And it's like, you can now see why a paraplanner employed within a firm that doesn't have a structure in place or an acknowledgement of actually what's required to be a paraplanner and how to motivate, develop that individual, why someone might be sitting in their shit in a role in a company and feeling undervalued. So that was an amazing breakdown. I've never had anybody articulate it so clearly as you have and so well thought out. We had a call a couple of weeks back, didn't we? And we talked about our own businesses and we talked about well-being, didn't we? And how important that well-being is, because, well, I was actually kind of cussing a little bit because I felt that I do so much for my business when it comes to well-being. And I think sometimes there is such a pressure upon business owners to always constantly be like fixing employees' problems. Yeah. And I believe as employees, we have a duty of care to create an environment that enthuses individuals, is open enough for people to be able to talk about, say, problems and offer solutions to help that person. Because we care deeply about our employees, we care deeply about their well-being, and we want to ensure that we aren't adding pressure to them or adding anything that's going to be detrimental to their mental health, for example. We all go through problems in life, don't we? And there are things that we can solve individually, and there are things that our environment causes.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I'm seeing a lot of well-being stuff targeted at firms. You've got to do more. You've got to do more. And I feel like you and me are two individuals that do a lot, and we do a lot for our staff, and we do it because we want to keep them, but also I think we want to help people. I've had personal experience of poor mental health. I know how difficult it can be when you're working in a company and it's not talked about, for example. What do you do then, Michelle? Because I think having an amazing career development plan, which you absolutely do, incentivizing people to progress, getting behind them in respect of their learning styles, what other things do you do that help the well-being of your staff that, again, others can learn from you to implement in their businesses?
Well, we like we said, just me and you the other day, I do quite a bit with well-being. We have an employee assistance program that runs all the time. That people have got the counsel, they can use that service and they can have free counselling and all that sort of stuff, and your back support and everything. And we've brought that into the business because we feel that they need an external place to call up and say I'm struggling and what have you, and that's completely free. But in addition to that, we use a company called GoVox for a bi-weekly email that gets sent out, and it sends our team like a little questionnaire, and they've got some questions in there about how they're feeling, how they're finding their work this week. Are they getting enough sleep? Are they getting enough rest? Are they surrounded by the right people in their business, in their day-to-day and in their life in general? But it merges everything together. So my view on people and work and society is that we have a job, and we go to work every day and we do our job, but when we go home and we're mum or dad or wife or husband and everything. And lots of people separate those two things out very, very, this is that, this is this sort of thing. Now, in my view, that life to have a balanced and happy life, you need to combine it all together, because it's not a work-life balance to me, it's a work-life circle. So you've got a ball of everything inside it, and you've just got to juggle your ball around to make sure that everything's good. So if you spend 90 hours in the office one week, the following week you've got to make up a little bit and spend less time in the office and more time with family. So we brought GoVox in and we created our own questions, because I wanted to know, are my team happy at work, but are they happy at home? Because like you say, your environment and your social surroundings have a big impact on people's well-being. And someone could be really unhappy at home and come to work and put on a fake smile. And I would like to know if I could help. So yeah, so GoVox. So they've got these questions, and it's got things like, are you finding you're sleeping well? Are you surrounded by the right people in your life? And then the answers that they put, it's not very much, it's not yes and no, and that very down the middle, down the line sort of thing. It's, the answers can be something like, yes, I've got the right people in my life, but I could do better on that. Or no, I'm finding this a little bit difficult and I need to work on that. So whilst the answers are there to give me an idea of how they're feeling, they're worded in a way to make the employee think, no, that's not right, and I need to do something about that. Or no, my work's not been very good this week and I need to think about that. And what we do is we have a little section in there that they can put little notes in. So what I hope is that they use that and they say, I thought about this, and actually my work's been a bit rubbish this week because of X, Y, and Z. And I've thought about it, and actually I think I could do this, this, and this, or the business could help with this, this, and this. And actually that'll make me feel better. So that's my aim from this GoVox questionnaire that we send out every 2 weeks. And it's completely, no one can see anybody else's responses. It only comes to me. And then I deal with it from there, sort of thing. Another thing is it gives us a little red flag. So if someone answers something in a certain way, the system will red flag me, so I can have a conversation, or I'll ask the line manager to have a conversation with that person. But yeah, that works really well for us. And I like we say, you've got to focus on well-being. You've got to have facilities in place. And we're looking at doing the wellbeing standard with Michelle Hoskin as well at the moment, about embedding that. But you've got to give them the tools to be able to fix themselves, because I too have suffered with bad mental health a few years ago, gone through the menopause, and it made me all doolally, completely threw everything out, went into a bit of a depression. But you've got to pull yourself out of it. And if you've got the tools to do it, and the people around you, and the want and drive to do that, then you really can pull yourself out of it. Yeah. And that's why I brought GoVox in, because I want people to read those responses which are saying, I need help, but I need to do something about that. Help me do it. Not, you've got to help me do it. You've got to do this for me. You've got to do that for me. Well, no, it starts with you, and we're there to support.
Change has to come from within, and change only comes from accepting that we're screwed, that we're not happy, that we need to change. That's why I like this GoVox, because it's powerful. It's similar to this charity that I'm part of and on a trustee of, called Talk Club, which is and you start every session with, how are you today, out of 10? So it's a question and it's a number, and it makes you sit back and think, well, how am I? How am I out of 10? And if someone says I'm a 6, then to me a 6 is, okay, well, five's like half, you're entering into the low scale. So I naturally ask a question, well, why? And I think these weekly regular check-ins, however you do it, whether you see a counsellor or whether you see a group or whether you phone your friend up or whether you have a mentor, whether you use a service such as that, which promotes questioning how you are and questioning how you feel, but then leads you down a pathway of exploring it intrinsically, is perfect. Does it also then offer you, and interesting what you said about the menopause there, we had somebody on the podcast actually last week talking about menopause, and her experience of the menopause. I was in a St James's Place talk club, and there were a lot of men in there because it was a men's talk club, and I did a talk there on men's International Men's Day. There is a day for that, by the way.
Oh.
And I talked about male suicide, and I also then hosted 3 talk clubs for men. And believe it or not, and I love, and it really, it was a real eye opener for me because my wife's also going through with PMDD. So I had to do a lot of research and understanding into it. And there were men within there, and 40% were feeling low and felt they had a lack of control around the menopause for their wives, right? So it was affecting them. It was affecting them in as much as they understood that it was affecting their wives. And for them, it wasn't like oh God, she's going through a change and all of that. They were deeply affected by the change that was happening, and it was changing their lives as well. And I've had to like work with my wife around it because she's like put me through to podcasts to listen to understand PMDD, what it is, the hormonal change, what to expect. And because I could easily go into like, it's my fault, for instance, like she's upset. So what have I done to upset her type thing? And when I went into further education around it and understood it more, like it's super interesting to understand that and menopause and like PMDD, what a thing to have to go through, right? What a thing to have to go through. And I think the conversation around it in the workplace, not just aimed at women, but for awareness for anybody within the workplace of what it does to somebody, and especially at a point in life as well, where a lot of those women that are going through it might well be in senior positions, might well be running their own businesses, because it gets you at later life. It doesn't get you at the beginning. For some, it obviously can happen, but there needs to be a bit of awareness and understanding about it, and it needs to be talked about. And I think 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day in a workplace, some people might lose their shit, and we need to understand and be understanding, accepting of it, and having these conversations and educating. My dad was just he had terrible view. And you grow up as a boy in a boys' house full of boys, you take on that viewpoint,
Yeah.
you learn from your father most of the time, or whatever male role model you have. And it was interesting you said that there, and it's tough, isn't it? And these types of tools allow you to understand what's going on, and also it allows the individual to articulate how they feel in a secure manner, so then it's presented to you. And also the individual there within that business can never really ever turn around and say, you never asked. And that's the most important thing for me, is that I always want to create that open door policy. If you want counseling, we give you it. It's free. It's here. Here's a benefits package. As you progress on through my business as well, we increase things like life cover. We increase things like healthcare to reward you, because obviously the pressures that come along as well. But anybody at any stage within the journey within my business, I can give them 8 counseling sessions, because the biggest barrier to entry in sorting yourself out, regardless of where the help comes from and whose responsibility it is, right? The toughest barrier to entry when somebody is thinking about helping themselves is cost. They don't want to spend £40 on a counselling session because they don't feel yet that's, and it's a big chunk of their money, and they're in a new job, and they're anxious, and they're stressed, or whatever stage they're at. They don't want to do that. So I think, like you, implementing things like that to support the well-being and the health and the wellness of your staff only creates advocacy, and you're doing the right thing, right?
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to finish on something, and it's something that you came up with then in the whole conversation that I really want to just explore a little bit further, and that's the niching as a paraplanner. Never come across that. I'll be honest. I didn't realize paraplanners niched. So for me, that's a really interesting subject. Can you just give us a couple of areas that you've seen paraplanners niching in specifically? And do you think niching is the future of paraplanning, to build upon, say, your personal brand and establish yourself as a bit of a leader out there? So a bit of a marketing personal brand tool as well.
Yeah, I do. Like there's so many people that are training to be paraplanners now, or there's so many people that are setting up their own businesses and as a freelance paraplanner, that I think an advisor looks at you, we just all look the same.
Mm.
Like we've had this for years. Oh, you're just a paraplanner. Well, no, eParaplan's not just a paraplanner. We do everything. We do everything. We do admin, we do paraplanning, we do reg data returns, we do marketing, we do design, we do compliance, we do everything. You don't need to have staff with us. Absolutely everything. We've got subscription services to run client servicing throughout the whole year, and it covers everything.
Yeah.
So when you're an advisor and you're looking at the market, you just think, they're a paraplanner. But if you start to niche, and again, it doesn't mean only do this area, it just means be more technical in this a certain niche. Say, for example, financial abuse. So if you have got your ducks in a row about financial abuse, you've done extensive training, education around financial abuse, and you are the financial abuse go-to paraplanner in the industry, any advisor that needs help with financial abuse isn't going to go to any paraplanner. They are going to seek out someone who knows what they're talking about. Same with I'm trying to think of another example now. But even in like investments, we've all got an idea of investments. We all know all got knowledge, and if you've got something a little bit weird, you can research it. Yes, but if you've got that real deep knowledge and understanding of multiple investments and to a different level, some paraplanners will understand beta, alpha, shares, and everything, but other paraplanners will understand a stock or an investment fund, but not so much what this means or the beta means or the alpha means so much. I can write a report on it, but I don't really understand that well. But there are going to be people that absolutely understand that. It's in their mind. That's what they love. They love that part of their role. And again, if you're advertising as being the technical go-to for that area, and an advisor's looking and they go, oh, I need that, they're going to come to that paraplanner for that area. So I think, is it the future of paraplanning? Quite possibly. I think there's going to be firms that do it all. We're a firm that's focusing on client servicing now. We're client servicing and customer support. We're really going down that route for us. And there's other firms that have just, they're focusing on other things as well. But I think because there's so many different freelancers coming up now, I think to stand out in the market, you need that little bit of a niche. You need something that you are technically skilled better than other people in, and then really go for it.
Really establishing yourself as that key person of influence. I created the Financial Planner Life to be a key person of influence within the career space, right? And it's going to move into branding as well, videography, podcasting, all of that. I want to be that key person of influence, the person people think of. That's why I want to set up that's why I'm setting up the Financial Advisor Academy. I want to be known as the person who's bringing new people in and innovating in that space. It's exactly the same for anybody in any role, really. If you establish yourself as that thought leader and you do pick a niche that stands out and you use that as part of your personal branding or your personal marketing, there's nothing to say you're not going to be standing up at some conference talking about it. If you hyper focus on something that you're passionate about and that interests you, you're going to stand out, and it's only going to help you in your career, whether you're setting up your own business, whether you're looking for a better paid job, whether you're looking for a better experience, a job with purpose, whatever it might well be. And one of the super duper interesting things about that as well is when you become that key person of influence, your network of individuals that you socialize with in that pool become far greater. And you tend to then meet key people of influence in other sectors. And then when that happens, you start to be introduced to other people at a very higher level. So it's like a kind of fast track to super duper networking on steroids. Instead of kind of trying to find yourself, raise yourself, and it works. And I think, again, where paraplanners who have that entrepreneurial spark within them, it's a great opportunity for them to showcase that and to get on things like social media, perhaps, maybe using things like video, content creation, etc. There's your connection to being able to do so, to raise your profile. I had a conversation quite recently, and I believe also that there are a number of really, really good people in paraplanning positions that actually can also deliver fantastic social media content because they know the ins and outs of how a product works, why you use it, what investment solutions are, how to explain IHT, real complicated things they're probably incredibly good at articulating So again, it's that paraplanner thinking, what can I do just to scratch the itch because I'm a creative marketer, for example? I want to build my marketing. Then why not stand up and speak to your financial planner and work together to create some coaching content, for example? There's so many good things that can be done if you just kind of step up above it and raise your profile. And if you want to do that, that's, great. But it gives you something else, doesn't it? It gives you something else within that role, that you're not just defining yourself as a mushroom, feed them shit and keep them in the dark, which some people feel that way, Michelle, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Really looking forward to getting to know you even further. You've got a really great business there by the sounds of it. What you're telling us so far, it sounds like an amazing place to work. And if I was listening to this podcast and I was thinking to myself, God damn it, I want to be a paraplanner, or I want to work for a firm that are going to look out for my well-being, give me career development and reward me in the right way and keep me motivated, I think you'd be top of my list, Michelle.
That's good to hear. Thank you.
So thanks very much for your time today. Have an amazing day, and all the best.
No worries. Thank you so much. Take care.
Nice one.